Good evening, everybody. I'd like to open up the Town of Rhinebeck Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for October 18th, 2017. And the first order of business is to welcome Catherine Clark, who is seated to my left. And I just want to welcome Catherine on board. I want to thank her for her service. A lot of times this can be thankless, but it's very important work. And I appreciate you stepping up to the plate and helping us out. And I think with your diverse work background and experience, and the fact that you're smart and able, you're going to bring a lot to the board. So welcome aboard, and
Thank you.
Thank you for serving.
Look forward to it.
Next is the meeting minutes for September 20th, 2017. Did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
And if so, does anybody have a question, concern, correction? I didn't see any issues, but if anyone else saw something.
There was a small thing which is unofficial since I wasn't here.
No, but if you saw something, if you see something, say something.
Thank you, Scott. I was just going to say.
I know you were.
Public hearing opened, was repeated.
Where is that, Tim?
It's, 1, 2, 3, page 4. Yeah, it's strictly format.
Oh, twice.
Where are we?
Under Gonzalez, yeah. Right, so we'll remove one of them.
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes with that correction. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, carried. And that brings us to new business. And the first case that is on is, was Nemers, but that's going to be moved to 8:15.
Scott, did you want to go over the ZBA minutes? Schedule?
Oh, okay, we can do that. We were given a new schedule for the 2018 meeting schedule, or a proposed Zoning Board of Appeals 2018 meeting schedule. Did everybody have a chance to see that?
Yes.
Yes.
And take a look at it? Any questions, concerns? We're sticking with the same format, which is going to be the third Wednesday of each month, and we're just going to stick with the one meeting a month. That seems to have worked very well. Probably should have done it a long time ago. So would you like a motion to accept that? or-
Yeah, just
Okay.
a quick motion to accept the
I'll make a motion to
2018
accept that.
meeting schedule.
Okay, I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the agenda, or the meeting schedule for 2018 is accepted. Thanks, Kim. Okay, Nemers is put off till 8:15, correct, Chris? All right, so the first new piece of business is case number 957, Garden Homes Management. Is there anybody here for that? All right, come on up, and if you could, go to the microphone and briefly explain to us what you want to do, what your application concerns.
I'm Glenn Freer with Garden Homes. We own the Rhinebeck Mobile Home Park. We'd like to replace a 1960 mobile home with a new 2018 home. And I guess there's a question on the setbacks.
Now, the new, from reading the application, it looks like the new mobile home is actually smaller than the one that it's going to replace. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and is it going to be on the same pad?
Yes.
Okay. And are the setbacks going to be any more or less?
It's going to be less. We were, the old home was over the line, and now we're going to be back on our side by 18 feet.
Okay. I had just a quick question. I know you've given us photographs of the new proposed home versus the old home, and it's obviously an improvement. I had a quick question, and maybe you can come up here and answer it for me. There's a photograph showing the mobile home park, and maybe if you could just circle for me, just so I know.
One with a white roof.
One with a white roof, okay, right over here.
The one being replaced.
Is the one being replaced. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 in on the left as you're looking at the photograph. All right. Did everybody get a chance to take a look at the application?
I have a question. You said that you're replacing a 1960 mobile home. Was it put in 1960, or was it, do you happen to know, like, when it was put into the lot?
We've owned the property since, I believe, '82, and it was there then.
Okay.
So it was before 2009.
Yeah. It's been there a long time.
Okay.
And what is the mobile home being replaced? Does it have an address number? A spec-
Lot number 40.
Lot number 40, okay. And that's on here somewhere? I didn't know if
I
that was
believe
on
it's
there.
actually
It's got
in,
its own page.
yeah,
Okay.
and I think in
Thank you.
Ron's denial email, it lists it as lot 40 as well.
And I'm sorry if this is obvious, but we're here because the setback requirement is still being exceeded just by a lot less. Is that right?
Well, the way that I understand it is that the current mobile home is actually encroaching over the
neighbor,
line.
right.
So you're asking for a new updated one as well as one that's smaller to fit within your line?
Yes.
But it still doesn't meet the listed, the listed side setbacks?
The established setback.
I understand that the
Yeah.
rear setback could be 25 foot.
And it's also my understanding, the first thing that came to mind when I was looking at this is whether, and I think John may have discussed this with you, whether the variants are even required anyway, because it's a pre-existing non-conforming use. You're actually asking for something that's less, and it's going to be more compliant.
Yes, so, so when I was looking at your application, I noticed that it was, pretty much in the same footprint.
Yes.
And so that always brings up the question of possible, if the variants are actually required. If it's a pre-existing non-conforming use, you're allowed to continue that non-conforming use as long as you're not expanding upon it.
Correct.
There's a section in the zoning law, it's 12594, which kind of goes to the facts, where it talks about if you're replacing a mobile home or a manufactured home, and it allows you to replace that without requiring variances. We took a quick look at it today, but we have to kind of do a little bit more looking into it if
Right.
you would like us to look into that issue.
Yeah, I
But
would like you to look into
That
that.
might be an issue.
Yeah, I think
for-
we will continue with the process, and that is, what we're here doing tonight is just going over your application, seeing if it's complete enough for us to consider. If it is, we'll accept it, and then we'll set up a public hearing at the next meeting next month. In the interim, Kim and John, who are our counsel, can take a look and see if you even need to have the variances. If you don't, then we can cancel the public hearing. And if you do, then we'll just go forward with it, so.
Okay.
Yeah, this way, the process still continues, so you don't lose any time in case it's determined that you do need it, but if you don't need it, then you don't have to go through the process, so. But I do have some questions. So one of the issues as to whether this particular section might apply is the square footage. Do you happen to have specs on the new model?
Aren't they right up front?
14 by 26.
Replace with a
Just about.
14
Yeah, I was just,
36.
Yeah,
I
do that
figured it was,
quick
but
math
is
out.
there like a carport or anything
Oh, no,
attached to it?
no.
Okay, so it's, just 504 about by multiplying it?
Yeah.
Do you happen to have any of the manufacturer's specs by any chance?
Not with me, no.
Would you,
Yeah,
is there a
yeah.
way that you could get it and
Yeah.
maybe just email it to Chris so we can just take a look? Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
So the two photos in the packet are of the existing,
Correct.
okay? And you're the owner of the park, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, one is of the existing and one is of the proposed, right?
Yeah, the proposed one is the one right next to it.
Right.
Yeah,
How was that?
Yeah, the first one, you can see, it looks like a really old unit, and then the next page
Okay.
is...
Yeah, the first
what
one's
it's gonna
stamped
look
is what it's gonna look
2013.
like. That's actually there now.
Yeah, that's
So
there,
it's-
that's,
It's going to be
2013
identical.
is stamped, is there now.
yeah.
And the other one is the new, okay.
Yep. Anybody have any other questions, concerns? It's a pretty simple application. I think I know what you want to do, and I think I know what the issues are, but I leave it to my colleagues if you have any other
No, I have no question.
questions.
I'm just thinking out
require any
loud,
other-
Kim, if you and John determine that this doesn't need, right, it doesn't need an approval by the ZBA, presumably he'll know that if he replaces any others, he won't need to, right?
Well, so that section that I cited from the zoning law has certain requirements for it to, one of them is the square footage. Another one, it has to be a manufactured home, but the definition of manufactured is in the zoning law, so we have to make sure it matches with that. So that's why I just need to, if I could just look at some of the facts, and then, if it's similar to the case we had with the O'Leary and the McClinchys, where we'll do a little memo to the board with our recommendation, and then the board can take action
Right.
on that at the next meeting.
I don't think this sets a precedent in the sense that if you wanted to replace one of these homes with a larger one,
Right.
this certainly wouldn't apply, whatever we decide here.
Right, yeah,
That'd be-
we have to take a closer look. This
Yeah.
was kind of, we were discussing it this afternoon, and then some questions came up, so we did a quick look, but
Yeah.
not enough to really give you,
If I read it right, it allows an expansion of 20%?
right, so this is actually, but there's a few other factors. Like I
Right.
said, the manufactured home is defined, and the square footage is defined, so that's why I have to just kind of, can't give a formal recommendation at this time.
Right.
And is there a letter from the code enforcement?
There should be an email attached to this application, right?
Okay, then I just missed that.
It's on page 7 of the application, in the PDF report, please.
Great, thank you. Yep, got it.
Yeah, it's in here somewhere. Yep. Okay. At this time, I'd make a motion to accept the application. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, great. What we'll do here, again, is we'll schedule a public hearing for the next... November 15th. Is that a date that you can make, just in case we need to do it? Okay.
And Chris, just before you send out the public notice, if you could just hold off until we can, in case you don't need to do that.
And what happens is, and as Kim was alluding to, what we do is we notify the neighbors, interested parties in this, and then I have an opportunity to come to the public hearing and support, oppose, question, whatever, the application, if we get that far. But it's the same format. You get up here and you tell us what you want to do, and you take questions from the audience and questions from us and all that. But in the interim, we will do the legal research and let you know whether you have to be back here for the public hearing on the, what did you say, the 15th?
Yes.
November 15th?
Do you want to assign this in case it does go?
Sure. You want to take it, Tim?
Yeah. I'll take
Okay,
it.
we'll assign it to Tim.
I assume there's a resolution only if it goes forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm happy to be the point person.
And at this time, 617.5C, 12 and 13?
Yeah, so if you want to just, again, just in case we go forward with the area variance, we'll still continue, so we can do a seeker, you can classify it as seeker. Under 617.5C12, it's for
And-
individual setbacks.
Right.
And then C13 is for a single-family variance, residence. I wasn't sure if this was,
We usually throw in both, just for...
yeah, I mean, certainly C12
Right.
individual setback would apply, so.
Okay, so I'd make a motion that this be determined by the board to be a type 2 action under 617.5C12 and C13. And do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
And then if you want to do some referrals. So for Dutchess County planning, if it's within 500 feet of a state road, in this case Route 9 would be a
Right.
state road. Typically, if you're applying for an area variance for residential use, it's exempt, being that, this might be considered a business, just that you own the mobile park, it's not the individual lot. It might be a safe bet to just refer it out to DC Planning.
I agree.
If they say no, then there's nothing lost, and if they say yes, then we have covered our bases.
Okay. So, planning board,
The Dutchess County Planning, and then the Rhinebeck Planning. as well.
Rhinebeck Planning Board. Anybody else?
Nope, there's no development in open space, so it doesn't need to go to the CAB, and it's not in the LWRP, so it doesn't need to go to WAC. So just the two planning boards, and if you want to make a motion for that, have Chris send those referrals out.
I make a motion that those two referrals be made for this application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right. I think that takes care of that. So maybe we'll see you on the 15th.
All right,
All right, take care.
all right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, do you want to, we have a couple of minutes until the Gonzalez public hearing. So if you want, I can sneak in a resolution. Does that sound like a reasonable course of action?
For the Steiker?
Yeah, for Steiker.
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be perfect.
All right, I apologize, gang. I didn't get to Steiker until today, but you do have a hard copy in front of you. I wrote it in the affirmative. To me, it was a fairly easy resolution. It calls for one variance, and it's a side yard. Did anybody get a chance to go out there? It's very, very rural, to say the least. So anyway, let me just go through it.
This is the one with
Resolution of
screen
the-
porch, right?
What's that?
This is the one with the screen porch.
Correct, the screen porch, the 20 by 20 screen porch. It's in the matter of the area variance application of Melissa Scholes and Anthony Steiker, case number 954. Those two folks are the applicants, and the appeal is from Town Zoning Administrator's denial letter dated August 15th. The property involved is located at 373 Mill Road, and consists of 5.5 acres and is situated in the RA10 zoning district. It is extremely rural, by the way. When you go to the property, all you can see is woods. You can't see a neighbor. So it's kind of out there. The applicants were represented themselves, but engaged two firms to assist them. One was Decker Surveying, and they gave us a survey map. And then we also had drawings from Richard Veith, an architect. The proposal is they want to build a 20 by 20 foot screened-in porch on the western front portion of the house. The house, by the way, is, I don't want to say dilapidated, but it has not been occupied for several years, and they're gutting it and refurbishing the whole house. And as part of that renewal, they are proposing this this porch. They require one area variance. The applicants seek an area variance from section 12521 of the zoning law relative to a side yard setback for the screened porch addition along Mill Road. The house is situated on the property, is located close to the north side property line. As such, the proposed screen porch is sited too close to the side yard, and therefore a side yard variance is required. And if you look at the plans, the house itself is actually closer to the side yard than this porch.
Porch is around.
Yeah, the porch is around, so it's, but I get to that later. The proposed side yard setback is for a screened-in porch along Mill Road, and it equals 32 feet. That's the distance it's going to be from the side yard. 100-foot setback is required, and therefore a 68-foot side yard variance is required. It's probably 67.5, but it was rounded up to 68. And there was some inconsistency in the application, but I think these numbers are actually the correct ones. ZBA review, timeliness of the appeal. The applicants filed the appeal with the board on August 2nd and paid the requisite fees. It's within the 60 days of the ZEO's decision. We accepted the application as complete on August 16th, and under seeker, we determined that it was a type 2 action under 617.5C12 and 617.5C3. We had some referrals and responses. First was with the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board. The application was referred over to the Town of Rhinebeck Planning Board on or about August 16th, and we received a memorandum back from them straight away on August 21st. And basically, the Planning Board found that the proposed use and requested area variance raised no significant planning or environmental issues. And then we also made referral to the Rhinebeck Waterfront Advisory Committee. And again, the referral was around August 16th when we accepted the application. And upon review, they found that there was no significant impact to the LWRP policies. So the project was clean as to those two referrals. I did a site visit on August 3rd, 2017. It's a very interesting house, probably circa 60s, early 70s, that kind of modern-esque architecture. The place had not been inhabited for several years, so it's gutted, and they're totally redoing it. And this is just a small portion of the rehabbing, but they're doing a very nice job. From what I can see so far, I'm putting a lot of time and effort and money into it. Anyway, public hearing was held on the appeal. That was on September 20th, 2017. We didn't have any comments from anybody in the audience, but we did receive an email from neighbors Woody and Colleen, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, Dierze, D-I-E-R-Z-E, who were in favor of the application, and they thought that it would, the porch would enhance the property. We closed the public hearing on September 20th. Okay, the findings of facts and conclusions of law. We did the 5 factors in balancing test that we're required to do under 125, 124C1 of the Town of Rhinebeck zoning law. First is, if the variance is granted, will it cause an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood or cause a detriment, okay, it's spelled correctly, to the nearby properties? I said we find the answer to the question is no. The property is located in a very rural area with no neighboring structures visible. All you can see is woods. It's a very heavily wooded area. The addition will not be visible to the neighbors or from the roadway, for that matter. And I said, moreover, the addition of the structure will enhance the existing structure and enhance the character of the neighborhood and the nearby properties. It's just going to be an asset to the structure. Can the relief or can the benefit sought by the applicant be achieved by some other method feasible for the applicants to pursue other than the area variance? And I said the answer to that was no. And the structure is situated on, it's a very large piece of property, but it's almost like on the top of a hill. And where this porch is really the only place you could put it. If you go in the backyard, it literally drops off like a cliff, so that you can't be put in the backyard. One other side yard is really where the driveway and the garage is, and then the other side yard is where the septic is. So the only place to put it is kind of in the front yard, which is really where it is. So there's no other place to put it. Is the requested area variance substantial? I said no, and I'm willing to debate this. While the variance calls for a 68-foot side yard variance, and this is where I come down on it not being substantial, the existing structure itself is 18.5 feet from the side yard line. This structure is going to be 32.5 feet from the side yard. So it's actually 14 feet farther away from, so I guess there's 2 ways to look at it. You can say, yeah, you need 100 feet and you're asking for 68, so it is substantial. On the other hand, if you look at what's there right now, it's not in the sense that it's actually farther away from the side yard. That's the way I went, but if somebody wants to argue to the other way, I have no quarrel with that.
Well, just to be clear, so this, you said it was really rural.
Yes.
No neighbors can see it.
No, you can't see any neighbors.
Anyone who buys the neighboring lot or would be buying it subject to knowing where this new structure is, and the existing neighbor had a chance to participate in this.
And they were all in
And they
favor,
were supportive,
yeah.
so I think, okay.
So anyway, but I think you could come down yes or no on that. And that's not determined because it's a balancing of 5 factors. Anyway, will the proposed area variance have an adverse impact on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district? I said no. Again, the proposal will improve the appearance of the structure and will be a benefit to the neighbors and fit into the neighborhood. And then the last one is the alleged difficulty self-created. Again, I said no, because the only reasonable option for improving the structure in the manner requested is to place the addition in the area set forth in the site plan. That's literally the only place they can put it, given what exists there today. So basically, that's the way I came down on it. I thought this was a pretty easy one.
Well, just as a matter, as a point of discussion, because I don't think it affects the outcome
Yep.
here, but it's self-created to the degree that
If you want it.
you want a
is.
porch.
Yeah, if you want a porch.
It's self-created.
Yes. But
Oh.
on the other hand, if you wanted a porch, you can't put it, it's not like you can put it somewhere else.
Yeah, you want it to connect it to the building.
You want to connect it to the building, and you don't want it on the septic field, and you don't want it, over the cliff.
No,
or
I'm
next
only
to the
saying
garage.
just for the language, because
Yeah.
I almost would say yes to E.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that.
I'm willing to, that's fine. So if we say yes, would you like to supply some language?
No,
You just want to start trouble.
right?
Well, I think what Tim was saying is that, it's technically self-created for the sense that they don't need a porch.
Right.
So you can just say, we find the answer to this question is yes. A porch is not a requirement for the home, it's an addition.
Which is a
Just that
luxury,
is
not a
desired.
necessity.
Right,
And go on from there.
yeah. And then you can,
Would you
Just
like
a-
to supply some language?
I can supply but basically it would just say, a porch is additional, that was desired by the,
Right, it's not required.
not
It's-
required, it's a luxury, and
Not a
How about,
necessity.
how about this? We find the answer to this question is yes. However, the only reasonable option for improving the structure in the manner requested is to place the addition in the area set forth in the
There
plan.
we go.
that's fine too.
Got it, Chris? Okay.
It's just the same sentence, there's no, you just
Yeah.
insert however.
All right, and then based upon a review of the 5 factors, I found that the balancing test favors granting the area variance sought, and then we get to the decretal section. Now therefore be it resolved, based upon all of the facts described above and upon the reasoning described above as follows. Section 1, the ZBA grants the variance from zoning law section 125-21. Specifically, the ZBA grants the 1 side yard setback of that's not reading right. 1 side yard setback of 68, take out the A, of 68 feet along the side yard as set forth in the site plan and the application. Section 2, the granting of the variance does not absolve the applicant from having to secure any other required permits and/or approvals. And 3, the area variance shall be null and void unless the proposed construction is commenced within 1 year of this resolution. And then I just added, the proposed structure must be constructed in conformity with the application and plans submitted.
Period.
Period. Yes, add the period. Okay, any discussion about the resolution, the application?
No, I'm good.
You're good?
Yep.
Good.
Again, there's a typo, Catherine's name, I gave her an extra E at the end of Clark, so if you can just remove that.
And we'll remove Jeff Irish name.
Ah, and Jeff Irish is there.
He's with us in spirit.
He is with us in spirit, yes.
What's the correct spelling of your name, Catherine?
No E.
Just no E on Clark.
Oh, got it.
If there's not going to be any other discussion, I make a motion that we adopt the resolution as read with the amendments that we've discussed. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Can you poll the board?
Aye.
Yes.
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 All right.
And I would just make a quick, where the copies are going to be provided, being that this was referred to the WAC.
Oh, they're not on there? Okay.
Well, you have the Conservation Advisory Board, technically the same group, but we'll just have it to go to the WAC formally.
Okay. All right, that takes care of that. So we're past 7:50, so we have a continuation of the Gonzalez matter. Come on up. Okay.
Got it.
He staked it, he also put measurements here now, so.
Okay, do you want to come on up? I know you're one of the neighbors. All right, so this was the alternate arcing kind of, okay.
And the original?
Was
I
it,
have it right here.
maybe we should compare those two. So this is the alternative we discussed last time, correct?
Yes.
All right.
My only question I have is, my concern is if we build a fence, I don't know how much, because I know you need to have a certain amount of feet between the fence and the other property.
Mhm.
So I just want to make sure there's enough room, and I didn't know what that number is.
Oh,
Because
is
the play
there-
structure's right here, so I just want to make sure there's enough room to put a fencing there and not encroach on the other property.
You know,
I don't think that, I mean,
Because
if
don't you have
the fence is on this property, I think it can, in other words, I'm saying this to the neighbor more than anyone, and I thank you so much for coming to all these meetings. But if everyone did this, and people are driving by, there's going to be a fence put up here.
Eventually.
Yes.
So if everyone had all these curved fence, that's what I was imagining. So if we allow this, I mean, my thinking last week was, this is the solution, let's do this. But as I was thinking about this, you know, without a fence, mowing the lawn, I wish both property owners a lot of luck. You know, because traditionally, lines are straight.
Well, you have three segments. You don't have curves, you have segments, right? Am I reading it right?
Yeah.
Straight, straight, straight.
Well, and from the street, that would look straight, so it isn't,
Yeah.
I mean, from here, it would look, but whatever the board
And I
votes
think
on.
in terms of the fencing too, we're not gonna fence the entire property. It would be like the backyard.
Just the back.
So this isn't going to be here?
There will be no fence.
There'll be
There'll be
no
no
fence
fence there.
there.
Okay.
But
Okay,
it
so it
would,
is a straight line then, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, because it would block,
really any
well, the other piece of that too is it would block, you know, so we're not looking into each other's backyards.
I mean, look, straight lines are always easier to manage, but it's not the end of the world if you've got
It was moved from here to here.
2 points.
So the setback is less than, they need the variance from here to here. With this,
Yeah,
they don't.
hardly any property has a square.
They still need the other two variances, but not that particular one.
And that was the most,
Yeah, this is the most significant.
staring at all.
Well, here, you know, you're giving this property more room, which is good.
Yeah.
But whatever, if that's important to you, I'll weigh that.
It's not, whether it's curved or straight isn't critical to me.
Right.
Traditionally, you say they're straight, that's fine. Here you can find a bunch of curved lines all over these properties, so that's not in stone. The main thing is, I would like the property sold. I think you want the property sold rather than rented. The other neighbors who aren't here tonight would rather have the property sold. I think if you cut back on the backyard of this property, you probably...
Like that, yeah.
You probably diminish the likelihood of a sale. People may want a bigger backyard. Maybe they're seniors, maybe they don't want a backyard. Maybe they'll be thankful that it's cut in. I don't know. The main thing is,
It's,
Saleability.
sell the property, and are you restricting the sale because you're cutting the back?
that's pretty speculative, I think, too. And so, I mean, I don't know what the answer
Right,
is.
you know,
But the bottom line is, this doesn't require, this is conforming, and that's not conforming.
Well, he still needs two other variances.
Right, but this, the setbacks are conforming here and not,
That's correct.
and not there. So we're sort of adhering to the rules. We're
Well, what
sort
we
of-
try to do is to give less, I mean, give as little a variance as possible is what David's
Right.
getting at, and that's kind of the whole theory. It's a unique thing, should be given sparingly, and so the less we have to give, the better. If you can live with that, I mean.
If we go with this one, I only need a few new numbers, though. I had those numbers, but you gave us the square footage in the original and then in the proposal, and the difference is related. I'm presuming these numbers are the same because you have the same point. So that, the width is okay.
The width is the same. What the
Well,
square this time here.
the square
actually-
foot, yeah, it's a little bit
but like
different.
yeah.
But you're not
So Richard,
asking,
all you really need is the minimum distance, right?
you're asking for the minimum lot width and minimum lot area. So, yeah, unless it's close to it. On lot 18, which is this one, that was 1.2 acres being reduced to 0.96, but now it's being reduced less. But you'll just to get me that number,
Yeah.
if presuming we're going to pass it. Okay. We can work that out. I'm not worried. Okay.
So then we're just left with the two other variances.
Our preference is to give less variances if possible, and to achieve the same result. If you guys can live with it, that's great.
Okay. Yeah.
And you maybe like it better. I mean, if nobody's completely satisfied, that's a good resolution.
That's real estate.
It's actually law. They say a good settlement is both sides are not particularly happy.
We say that
It
in
means
real
a good
estate, too,
settlement. You
yeah.
say it's real estate too. So
Does it have what?
I'll look at it later.
I think we're leaning probably towards alternative number two, just because there's less variances. And that's really a key tenet of ours, is to keep as many, to have as few variances as possible, but achieve the result that you want.
And it's usually better for the landowners too, because in the future, there'll be fewer additional variances to deal with if something else comes up.
Okay.
Any other questions, concerns? I think we've talked this thing
To death,
to death.
several times.
All right, well, everybody knows what's going on. All right, can we keep these?
Yes,
Great, thank you.
yeah.
I will bequeath these to Richard.
Good. I hear you. Good.
All right. Anybody have any other questions, concerns? Are we done with the application? All right. At this time, I'd move to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Wait,
Opposed?
Wait, let me do this first.
Okay.
New measurements are right here, so that would be the new. with the
Is
new-
this is new?
This is
Oh,
the
it's
new-
on there.
Yeah, it's on there.
Got it. Thank you. There it is. All right.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, we've closed the public hearing, so that means that our time to do a resolution starts today. We have 62 days to do that. We will do it well before then. We will have the resolution done by the next meeting?
Yes.
All right, great. Thank you very much for your time and your patience and
Thank you.
effort, and also the neighbor.
And the
Neighbor,
kids.
thank you.
And the kids too.
Yeah, that's right.
So I'll
Okay,
do it,
we're
but
after 8 o'clock, so we
I
can
have the
do,
new number. He showed me.
we can do Eveready, and
Yep.
I need to recuse myself, so Richard, if you would be
Yes.
so kind as to take over the duties.
All right.
Good night.
Okay, at the last several meetings in September and August, I don't think a representative of Eveready was here. And let's see, did we reach out to find out if they're going to come, Chris?
Not this past time, but historically we have, and he's supposed to contact me when he's going.
All right, so I think we should definitely at the November 15th meeting have a representative come to just update us. I think so. I don't know about the rest of the board.
I mean, it's kind of up to the
Hey, Catherine, this
applicant.
is where the fire was of the diner?
Yeah, I read through the material.
Good,
on
okay.
it, So,
Kim, is it not up to the applicant to show?
It can certainly be requested. You know, it's.
Right, we can't
we're-
force them to come.
We can't,
but,
yeah, of course, you can't force them to come. You know, the public hearing, from my recollection, it's remaining open because we're waiting for a response from Department of Health, I believe.
That's
So.
3 meetings ago. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, so I certainly don't think the public hearing should be closed,
Right.
because, you know, if we're still waiting, we can, you know, make another attempt to see if they can provide.
Well, in the alternative, if they could just provide a letter to us rather than come to the meeting. Chris?
Yeah,
Maybe just request a short update.
an actual document rather than an email.
No,
No,
email's
an
fine.
email's
That's
fine, just a written
Status
record.
update.
Yeah, email is fine.
You guys have the last one? Because I sent the last one, not this past one.
2 months ago, yeah.
Yeah, maybe another one then, yeah.
Is it, Rich, or has this been assigned yet? I can't remember.
Yes, to me.
To
Yep,
you?
yep.
Okay, good.
All right. Okay, so
just
there's
a-
no action other than,
Well, you can have a motion to continue the public hearing.
all right, I'll make a motion to continue the public hearing.
second.
Second, Catherine, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
All right, and we did have, just for the record, an application that was supposed to be on for, I think it was supposed to be on for public hearing, which was the Weil matter, and that has been withdrawn. I believe Mark Brominski is taking over shepherding that application. So the original application, which apparently had some flaws in it that we kind of parsed out at the beginning, caused them to withdraw the application, and they're going to resubmit.
A complete, so the application's
Completely
a
new.
complete new, okay, great.
That's my understanding. Is that yours, Chris? And that has not been done yet.
No.
So that's off for the time being.
So we can empty this into the garbage can?
I would hold on to it, just, there might be some relevant materials.
Just in case they make references to
Yeah,
the
Just in
old one.
case.
and that's all I have. Is there
well,
anything else? or-
We do have Nemmers.
Nemers.
Oh, Nemers, that's right. 8:15. How could I
Yeah,
forget?
it's 8:14 right now. And you reached out to Victoria?
The email stated he was in Hyde Park, I think. Yeah, the attorney.
Yes, yeah, you know, she had a meeting at 7, and so she wanted a little extra time. Yeah.
We can give them 5
What
minutes.
about Steicher and
absolutely.
Schultz?
Huh?
Schultz was the Steicher-Stoltz.
That's the one I just did.
The resolution that Scott read.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Go away for one meeting and,
Chris,
Kim, maybe you can
when you want to have it. I'll give it to you
update.
when I'm finished.
I thought that the
There's numbers on
Nemers
here that I-
matter
All right.
was either going to be resolved, or it was kind of on, but then it was off, and now it's on again. and-
Well, this is just from email correspondence with the attorney who's representing Nemmers. It was supposed to be on last month's meeting, and then Victoria had Polidoro, the attorney who was representing Barry Nemmers, she had asked if it could be adjourned, because they were working on possibly getting an engineer to reseed Mr. Nemmers' property. And then just last week, I guess she had asked, this week, she had asked if it could just be adjourned. So I don't know how it's progressed between her and Ron. I haven't been privy to any of that information. I haven't received any emails, so.
And Chris, you haven't heard anything?
The last email I got was
All right. Well, we can Give her
You can
time,
take a
obviously.
quick, yeah, take a quick recess.
Just a recess?
You know, I don't know if you want to
Well, we'll
put a
wait,
time limit on it, but, I mean, it is the last thing, so.
Yeah, it's only 16 or 17, so we can wait
There
maybe
could
10
be
minutes or
traffic,
something.
yeah.
We are on television. Fred, go to commercial.
Yeah? Okay, so Fred, we back on? All right. So we're going to take up the Nemers matter, so,
And Scott, if you want to just make a quick motion to re-enter from recess,
Meeting.
just to say.
okay.
On recess.
I don't know if a motion's been made, but just for formality.
Motion to...
Come
I don't
back
think-
to the, yeah.
Come
out of
back from recess.
Come back from recess? Okay.
second that.
All right, we're back. So if you want to step up to the microphone and yes, you're televised.
My neighbor, it's just, I know Barry, there's a few houses where he's just trying to renovate.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Victoria Polidoro, partner at Rodenhausen Shaw, and I'm here on behalf of Barry Nemers. Mr. Nemers is appealing a stop work order issued by the ZEO on August 3rd, 2017. We've been trying to work it out in the meantime, but it's October and we're here. The stop work order alleges that Mr. Nemers engaged in, quote, property disturbance, grading slopes, removal of vegetation, encroachment on other properties, and open burning without obtaining special use permits or site plan approvals, nor CSX permits. CSX is the entity that owns the train station, or did at one point. Mr. Nemers does not deny that he hired a contractor to remove invasive species on the slope, but he says he was just removing poison ivy, wild grape, and brush. He also denies that he did anything to violate the zoning law or cause erosion. So we've provided you with a cover letter. We believe that the stop work order is invalid for several reasons, including the first, that it's insufficient on its face. If you look at the stop work order, it's included in your materials at Exhibit A. It doesn't actually cite any section of the zoning law that was allegedly violated. It's a due process issue and a fairness issue that Mr. Nemers be given notice of what he is violating, not just to receive a stop work order. The next reason is that we've gone through the zoning law and landscaping activities are generally exempt from review. If you look at our cover letter, we've given you several places where it says that site plan or special use permit review is not required. So again, Mr. Nemers is unclear on exactly what he did that triggered this stop work order. The third reason is that the stop work order cites encroachment onto neighboring properties. That's a civil issue. He's spoken with his neighbors. To the extent that his landscaper may have gone over his property boundary, that's between him and the other property owner. That's not an issue for the ZEO. We're also appealing the fact that the ZEO has linked the stop work order for 4 Corning Street to another property owned by our client at 9 Charles Street. This is creating a significant hardship at this point. Mr. Nemers purchased a dilapidated house in his neighborhood in Rhinecliff. It went up for sale. It was in a really poor state. He thought he would just go ahead and buy it and fix it. Of course, now he's having buyer's remorse because anything you do in Rhinecliff requires 7 different special use permits and site plan approval. So he finally got through the process of receiving planning board approval to improve the exterior. He's going to fix the porch, put on new windows, and he cannot get a building permit because Ron Evangelista has linked this issue on 4 Corning Street to his 9 Charles Street property. And so I believe you all have maps. I just want to go over this quickly with you so you can orient yourself.
So Ron's saying that because there's a violation of one property, that the other property can't go forward, and he can't get a building permit because he has an outstanding violation on
On a different unrelated
parcel.
property. That's what the ZEO has said.
Okay.
And if you look at the face of the stop work order, The stop work order itself says it's only limited to the 4 Corning Street parcel.
It's the email.
It's his email, which is preventing the planning board from signing the plans. And so we'd really like the board to weigh in and say, look, to the extent that the stop work order is valid, it doesn't even apply to this other parcel.
Are the properties abutting?
They're not combined. So,
No.
That's not my question. Are they abutting each other?
well, yeah, so if you have the map, and I can come show you.
I live in Rhinecliff, across the street from Barry's.
Okay,
Yep.
so then, this is the lot that Barry lives on.
Right.
This is his house. The adjacent lot houses his garage, which is part of his homestead. It's on a separate lot. It is the garage lot that had the invasive species removed. The house in question is 9 Charles Street. It's over here. It's on a different road, accessed from a different road. So the site work was done back here, and it's being linked erroneously to the house up here. According to my conversation with the ZEO, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he believes it was linked because he believes that the work on the slopes was improving somehow the view from 9 Charles Street. But I did provide you with photographs from last fall, which shows that A, it already had a view, and the slopes in question are actually behind that, so they wouldn't have been visible anyways. He just thought he was doing a landscaping cleanup job.
I agree with what you said, that disagreements between neighbors are civil matters. However, were there any complaints filed by CSX or a neighbor or anything like that that you know of?
Not that we're aware of.
Thank you.
The reason, how this came to the board's attention is that there was a site walk conducted by the planning board for the house that was under review at the time. And I guess the planning board members just decided to walk onto the neighboring property and look at the view, and someone said, oh, what's going on back here? And then they sent Ron out.
Okay, thank you.
So as far as we know, there were no neighbor complaints.
Very good, thank you.
So just to reiterate, we don't feel that 9 Charles Street has anything to do with the 4 Corning Street property, legally or otherwise. You know, they're separate lots, purchased at separate times for separate purposes. So we don't see the legal connection between the work on one lot and the work on the other.
Well, so far, is Mr. Nemers combining it into one development, one property?
He's not, I mean,
So far, yeah.
right, well, I mean, what you have is a map of it as it exists.
Okay, thank you.
And the work that was done on the property, you said it was all down at this part of the property?
Yes.
And were any trees cut down?
So from my understanding, no, it was only removal of like shrubby brush and those sorts of things.
What's the elevation down there? Is that a steep slope?
It is a steep slope. It does go down, so you can't even see the slope from...
From up here?
Right. He had an idea of planting a wildflower garden, which was how this all started. But he has not been able to do that because of the stop work order and...
They're hard to get started.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
Personal experience, but that's a good idea.
Well, that was the intention.
Yeah.
So since the stop work order, we've been trying to work with the ZEO just to satisfy him and get the stop work order removed. At this point, he remains unsatisfied.
In what way?
In the way that he does not feel that the work that has been done to stabilize any potential erosion problems is sufficient. So, you know, I've continued to reach out to him. We've asked to have the town engineer go out and perform an inspection, and we're working on that. So since it was issued, we now have another reason to appeal the stop work order because we believe it's moot. We believe that any potential erosion issues have been remediated, and there's no longer a reason for a violation. So what I have for you is a packet.
I'm sorry, I missed the remediation part, how did they get remediated? Any erosion issues?
Here, can I hand these out?
Okay, sure. Here.
All right, so I'm handing out a packet. It has 4 attachments. The first is a letter from Robert Murray, who's a licensed engineer, dated October 21st. He went out to the property after the stop work order and conducted an inspection. He states that there do not appear to be any erosion issues on the parcel. We recommend owner be permitted to immediately plant grass and flowers to provide continued protection. So that was August 21st. The engineer also said that they didn't see any, if you look at current recent activity, he said that we observed, consistent with the description, recent activity has been limited to clearing of garbage and invasive weeds along west and south edges of the property. Clearing of debris is best described as cleaning up overgrown garbage on the site, etc. So that was a letter from the engineer, which basically said, look, we don't see a problem here. But despite that, he went ahead and he had the slope reseeded. And because there hasn't been a lot of rain, he had to do it twice. And so we have a letter now from Heather Whitefield, that's the second letter, dated October 16th, 2017. And she's confirming that her company has gone out and they did the second seeding, the one that has taken. And they put down straw, fertilizer, and biodegradable jute. And then I have provided pictures that I took yesterday. And so it looks a little patchy, but if you look at the close-up, you can see that the grass is taking and that the slope appears to be stabilized at this point.
So I'm just looking at Ron's email of today, where he says,
I haven't been copied on that.
Well, it looks like it
okay, well,
was sent at 7:30.
it's sent to you, so I'm sorry, I'm just going to read from it because it was sent to you.
Well, why don't we give her a copy? So.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So the third bullet down says, but also shows,
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
oh, I see, this came in during our meeting. Okay. So anyway, third bullet down says, but also, your photos also show a number of sparse areas, so he's calling it a work in progress, I guess. And none of us have, well, maybe you, Richard, but none of us have been there. You haven't been on site either,
No,
have you?
I'm not on the site.
So,
That CSX property that we're looking at?
No, that I believe is his property.
Okay.
right, but you see the town and CSX property in the distance on some of the photos, right? So, okay, so Kim, were you being asked to do
Yeah, I'm
anything at this
perplexed.
meeting tonight
What are we
about the stop work order?
So,
Well, I think.
so tonight, really, you're just here to set a public hearing. We believe the stop work order should be overturned, and I gave you 6 reasons why we think that.
And then you're including the mootness.
I just added this mootness argument because, he has done all this remediation work, but in the first instance, we don't believe that it's a valid stop work order. It doesn't cite the zoning law, not sure what it's based on.
So it's an appeal for the stop work order. It's an interpretation, because when you're not seeking an area variance or use variance, your other role as a ZBA
Right,
is to do an
judicial.
interpretation. This includes both a zoning law interpretation, interpreting a section of the zoning law, or it can also just be interpreting what the ZEO has done, in this case, a stop work order. And so that's what Victoria and
request
Mr. Nemers are here before you. They're appealing the stop work order, and it's our job to look at the issues raised and determine if the decision was properly made or not properly made.
And is the next thing to do setting a public hearing, assuming we have everything we need? And for me, it's a pretty simple situation. I understand the arguments. But
Yes,
is
you
that the
will-
next
you'll-
procedural
yeah,
thing, is
you'll-
we set a public hearing?
Yes. You can, just as with an area variance,
Okay.
you go through to see if the application is deemed to be complete. You can go through a seeker classification. This is a interpretation. It would be a type 2 action for interpreting an existing code or rule. or regulation. And as an interpretation, there's no referrals that would be needed.
Is there some added urgency because of the potential for erosion and impacts to neighboring properties, Hudson River, something like that? No, you treat this...
Well, not that I
I mean,
Right.
if you want to have a special meeting for it, my client would be thrilled because I know he wants to.
Of course, he wants to expedite.
He's frustrated, but.
So I'm just asking our attorney if
I mean,
that's something
yeah, I
for
mean,
us to
that is
consider. I have no
something,
idea.
if you want to consider it, you can. You just have to make sure that the public notice would,
I would rather just keep it on regular schedule, because that gives us plenty of time to look into it, for you guys to do some legal research
And
and
I
be prepared
just,
for the next meeting.
I certainly would like to look at this email a little
Right.
closer, and I'm sure.
Plus, I know, given your
the clients would
schedule
like
too, you could use the extra time.
Yeah, well, that is a consideration, at least for our firm. We
Right.
are on a schedule for a lot of things.
Well, I mean,
And I don't-
just from the photographs you're showing me, it doesn't look like, it's eroding away, at least at this point in time.
I mean,
There's no emergency.
The Miss Whitefield, although she's not a licensed PE, she does state that it's stabilized.
Yeah.
And so we're hoping to get Ray Drakowski out there to take a look at it as well.
I'm trying to understand the goal. If there was a problem, why would the stop work order, whether it's valid or not, I mean, to me, if there was an erosion problem, it's separate from the work he wanted to do on the house.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a hybrid solution that could be worked out between yourself and the building department, whereby the stop work order is lifted, but the erosion issue is to be continued.
Well, I think that's.
We would welcome that.
I think
Or-
that.
Or a separation of the 9 Charles Street.
Well, that's what he's getting at, yeah.
Because that's what his concern is, right?
Well, I mean, that's one of the issues that I'm asking you to decide. I mean, if you simply decide that this isn't applicable to 9 Charles Street, it means that he gets to move forward with the construction there, and also that he'd have to continue working with Mr. Evangelista on this erosion issue. They would be separated.
And you said the planning board granted approval for the 9 Charles?
Yeah, approval's been granted. So we were hoping to have this worked out. I haven't even sat down to prepare a real legal brief because I didn't want to spend his money if we could work this out with Ron. But as you see, the weeks go by very quickly, and so I may be making a submission before your next deadline, before the public hearing, with some legal cases if necessary.
You know, I just can't help but say that I'm disappointed that someone who's improving a property, and I'm familiar with the property, it's in total disrepair.
Mm-hmm.
We would have to pay you for a legal brief, or have to
I agree.
engage you.
Yeah, and I would
engage
just, refrain from having a discussion as to some of the merits of the case, that, just until we have the public hearing and have time to digest some of the emails. But
Understood. Thank you.
All right, I think we have plenty. It's not that big an issue. I mean, we know why he issued this. We know what the issues are. At least I think I do. Does anybody have any questions, concerns? All right, so I'll make a motion to deem the application
yeah,
complete.
application complete if you think that sufficient information has been
I have sufficient
provided.
information, but we also know that you may be submitting more information, and that's fine, too.
Yeah,
Okay,
and
thank
just
you.
as the applicant, they can always continue to submit
Right.
application. It's just what you have in front of you is, if you think that that's enough to move forward.
I think it's
as
enough
it
to
is.
move forward, and then, I assume, is Ron going to be given an opportunity to respond? Is that
Yeah, you
the way-
can, we would actually, just as this is an appeal of one of his decisions, you can certainly invite him to come to the public hearing or to submit any arguments or response.
I think he should. I think there should be a response to the arguments made in the
So we can...
letter of
do
August
that.
8th, 2017.
Yeah, if you
So
wanted
we can
to-
get his side of the story,
Yeah.
too. But,
We have an email from him as of an hour ago, so...
And yeah, we'll take some time to digest that, and you and your clients can take some time to digest it, so you're not reading it on the spot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I make a motion that we accept the application, and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'm going to sign this one, too.
Yeah, I'll assign it to me, unless you want to take it.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Actually, I just did one. You get it. Damn. No, right,
remembered.
you get it.
Got it.
And then I guess the next, so the public hearing is what, the 15th of November? Is that okay? You guys can
Well,
make it?
I won't be here, but someone will be here.
George, send George in.
I'll send George.
Okay. And then, Kim, I think it is a type 2, and it's 617 5C 31?
31, yep.
Okay. It's kind of an oddball one, we don't use that very often. So anyway, I make a motion that the board deems the matter to be a type 2 under seeker, and it's under 617 5C 31, which is interpreting an existing code rule or regulation. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Third.
All, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, okay, opposed? All right. Anything else, Kim?
Was the public hearing set?
Yes, for
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
November
November
11th. Yeah, or, yeah, 15th. Do you have a time that you want to?
It's up to Chris.
I can email that to you tomorrow.
A time.
Is there a time, is 8:15, like 8 o'clock a better time, or do you,
So later, it won't make a difference because it won't be me.
okay.
So,
Shoot for 8 o'clock.
okay.
And then again, just, no referrals are needed for the interpretation, so nothing needs to be sent out.
But we should we say something formally that, we would like to get Ron's input?
Yeah.
Or at least have him
You
here?
can, yeah, you can reach out to Ron and ask if he would like to.
We will, okay, Chris will take care of that.
And then I just ask that you'd copy me on whatever he provides to the zoning board.
Yes, of course.
And then how much time in advance, if I do make a supplemental submission, if I can't get this worked out between now and then, do you want additional materials?
Well, usually the 2 weeks.
It's
right?
2 weeks?
2 weeks
Okay.
before the 15th.
So the 1st.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
before this matter closes, I just wanted to make a statement. I had reached out to Victoria before, but Grant Alliance has represented Mr. Nemers in the purchase of 9 Charles Street and a vacant lot on Corning Street. There's no conflict of interest. It was really just a real estate transaction. It's been closed. But I did reach out to Victoria and Barry just to disclose that, and I wanted to just disclose it publicly. But there's no conflict of interest, so we don't have to recuse ourselves.
And my client is aware of the situation, and he did not request recusal.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
Thank you very much. Anything else? Kim?
I think that's it.
That's it? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Adjourned.
Adjourn.
Chris, can I?